Okay, we need to talk about this. So, normally I don't do reactions to gaming news. Normally I just do the occasional reaction to a Nintendo Direct, but, I went into depth of my thoughts during the last Nintendo Direct about how this expansion pack was a thing, and I feel like it's kind of important to do a follow-up video now that this is a thing. So, let me set the stage real quick. This morning there was an Animal Crossing Direct, and I wasn't really paying any attention to it because I don't own Animal Crossing, but I wound up hopping on YouTube and found out that, of course, GameXplain was covering the Direct, and I noticed this video here, talking about the expansion pack pricing. And it's like, okay, so that finally got revealed, but why is it in the news about Animal Crossing? And then I found out. Turns out the Animal Crossing DLC is available for free as part of the expansion pack, and whatevs on that. I don't own Animal Crossing, so I don't really care. I'm just interested in the Nintendo 64 games and Genesis games. That said, what is the price? Second question, why is the price? So, I went into my thoughts on this during the previous big Nintendo Direct, but I don't mind the $20 a year price for the original price thing. I actually think it's a really good deal. Yeah, it's a really crappy online service, but when you ignore that, you're getting games like Kirby's Adventure, Super Mario Bros. 1 through 3, Gradius, Zelda 1 and 2, Blaster Master, Ninja Gaiden, Punch-Out!, Excitebike, versus Excitebike even, Super Mario World, Link to the Past, Yoshi's Island, Super Mario Kart, Kirby Superstar, Donkey Kong Country 1 through 3, Star Fox 1 and 2, Breath of Fire, all of these games for only $20 a year. Now, if you're not interested in these old games, then yeah, $20 seems like a bit much, but if you're interested in these, $20 a year for all of these games is definitely a really good deal. Which is why when Nintendo announced that the expansion pack would be a separately priced tier, I was not at all surprised. It's like, there is absolutely no way that Nintendo would add Nintendo 64 games to the service and still keep that $20 price point. I am fine with there being a price increase. And when they announced the games that would be included with this service, games like Mario Kart 64, Star Fox 64, Super Mario 64, Ocarina of Time, Castlevania Bloodlines, Contra Hardcore, Phantasy Star 4, the best RPG on the Sega Genesis, Sonic the Hedgehog 2, Shining Force. This wasn't just a sloppy selection of games to launch on the expansion pass, they were really digging into some good ones. Plus they promised some games like Majora's Mask and freaking Banjo-Kazooie. So knowing all these great games were being added to the service, I was absolutely willing to pay extra. How much? Well, the hope was $10 extra, but I would have probably been willing to pay $20 extra. But $30 extra? That is... oof. I mean, that's technically still a really good deal. All those games that I just mentioned, some of them third-party games, heck, one of them a third-party console at this point. Looking at that $30 increase on its own, that is still a good deal. The problem is, we're not looking at that price increase on its own. We're looking at the total price here. $50. I mean, that's still just for the price of one game a year, but, $50 is not an easy price to swallow. Especially yearly. Now, for some people, they're kind of bundling this with the crappy online service. It's like, great, so now we're paying $50 a year for that crappy online service? No, you're still only paying $20 for the crappy online service. The extra $30 is just for the games and the Animal Crossing DLC. Speaking of which, why is that a part of this service? Is there any way I could have it not part of this service? 'Cause I don't own Animal Crossing, and I probably never will. Now, Nintendo says it's free of charge, but, No, I'm not buying that. That sounds more like a justification for the high price rather than a bonus. One way or another, this is being part of the price. I would have much rather there been another option to be on some middle tier where I can just get the Nintendo 64 and Genesis games without the free DLC. I keep looking at this price and it seems like it should be a good deal, and yet it doesn't feel like a good deal. I'm definitely certain that part of it is because of the Animal Crossing DLC. It's like, if you don't want that, too bad, you're still kind of paying for it. But I think the other issue here is it's unexpected. It is such a huge price increase from the previous original online service price. You're going from $20 to $50. Not to mention the value of that original price. For $20, you're not just getting a bunch of games, at this point 100 games, but that also includes their crappy online service. It also includes cloud saves. For all that, $20 a year. For an additional $30, just about 20 or 30 games and DLC for a game that I don't own. A lot of people were expecting only a $5 increase, or maybe a $10 increase. I myself was expecting a $20 increase, but even that would have been kind of hard to stomach. Mainly because I already own most of the games in some form or another. But I would have eventually gotten it, maybe after a few months. Of course, $10 was absolutely the hope. $5, I did not expect that. $5, no, that was not happening. $10, that felt ideal. $20, that felt the top end of reasonable. Particularly because there would be a bunch of third-party games included, in addition to some of them being Sega Genesis games, in addition to one of the potential games coming up being Banjo-Kazooie, which at this point is owned by Nintendo's competition. $20 felt reasonable. Expensive, a little hard to stomach, but reasonable. But to jump all the way up to $50, that's... no. Maybe someday that'll become worth it? I mean, looking at the original price point here, I was not immediately willing to jump into that $20 a month situation when the Surface first launched at that price. But after a while, there were enough Nintendo and Super Nintendo games to make it worth it. Plus, I wanted to be able to play Super Mario Maker 2. This price... honestly, I'm not sure if this will ever become worth it. That is quite the jump. In order to make that price worth it, they would have to add a lot more games, and I mean a lot more games. I would also expect to see another system on there, because Nintendo 64 and Genesis are definitely big deals, but that's two systems for an additional $30. That's an additional $15 each. If you want to make it a good deal, add some other systems besides those. For that price, you need to rival the original Virtual Console service on the Wii. Let's see some TurboGrafx games in there. Let's throw in some Game Boy. Game Boy was the system I was hoping would be added to the service in the first place. I mean, yeah, everybody else wants Nintendo 64, that's the popular system, but the Game Boy is my favorite system of all time. There's a lot of really good games on that system that wound up getting overshadowed by the likes of Mario, Wario, Zelda, and Pokemon. And considering how much Nintendo likes to add obscure titles to their service, like Spinky's Quest and Jelly Boy, that's almost what the entirety of the Game Boy library is obscure games. It would have been perfect for this service. That said, to have Nintendo 64 and Genesis games on the service is still really cool. Had the price increase been a more reasonable jump from the original price, or if the price increase also included Game Boy games, I would probably almost certainly buy into it eventually, especially once a few more games got released for the service, but as it is right now at that price, for me personally, it is far from being worth it.